Hi everyone, welcome to this tutorial where we will be trying to create Spring Azure apps. In this video, we will learn to create a sample Spring app and run it on Azure at its Spring Azure services. I am Kumar Pallav and I have around 13 years of experience with Java, Spring and microservices. Let's create our first Spring application and deploy it on Azure. Let's look at the agenda of today's tutorial. We will start by creating a sample Spring Boot app. Then we'll set up the infrastructure for the same to be hosted at Azure. We will be using Spring Azure command line to deploy our application on Azure Cloud. At the last step, we will automate the deployment process with GitHub Actions and create a pipeline which can deploy our application every time there is a code change on the specific Git branch. Let us start by creating a sample Spring app. We will visit https://start.spring.io. We are selecting 2.7.6 as our version. We will be using Maven as the build tool. You can use Gradle if you are comfortable with it. Let us add a web dependency and hit download. Unzip the downloaded project and open in your favorite IDE. We are using IntelliJ here. Once Maven has downloaded all the dependency, we'll add a sample hello endpoint to it. We will add a path variable to say hello from Azure. Run the project at local and verify if everything is working as expected. We are adding a hello endpoint to verify that it works as expected. Let's build the project by clicking on package inside Maven, and it will create the war file and keep it under the target folder. Now we'll go to step 2. Let's set up the infrastructure for Spring Azure services. Log into your Azure account. Create a resource group. You can use Azure CLI command also to create the resource group. But here we are using the web console. Once the group is created, we need to add a service. And this service is our Spring Azure service inside it. We can simply search service into services or can use Azure CLI as well. The setup of this Azure service will take some time. Once done, let us create a Azure Spring app inside this service. This is one against which our demo app or the code will run. We can choose the Java version of your choice. I am choosing Java 17. Once done, let us deploy the sample Spring app that we created in this folder. Here we will use the command line to deploy our application to Azure. Once deployed, let's go to the Azure portal and verify if the sample app is deployed via Azure CLI. You can click at the endpoint of our sample Spring Azure app. Let us verify the endpoints are working as expected. This brings to our final point where we will be deploying using the GitHub actions. In root folder of our project, let us create a folder called .github. Followed by the workflows folder inside the .github. Now let's add a YAML file inside it. And in this YAML file, we will have the pipelines instructions added. Now let's look at the instructions in the pipeline. It contains the service name and the application name with which we have created the application on Azure. It has Azure subscription, which can be found on Azure portal once you log in it. We are running maven clean command to build the project. We need to provide Azure credentials to it. Let's create Azure credentials. Run the command to generate the credential. Click on Setting and navigate to Secrets and add Azure credentials. Copy the credentials and paste it into the GitHub. Now we can push the code, and once we push the code, we can click on the actions and verify if our pipeline is executing. Once the pipeline has been successfully executed, we can go to the portal and verify we can go to the portal and verify the state of the application. While deploying, the state is written as updating. Now let us verify our endpoints. That's it for this tutorial. Do remember to delete the resource group if you don't use it to avoid the extra charges. And let's meet into the next section of Azure Spring App.